What's up? So I'm going to take some time today here to go over how to use Texmod to log textures, to replace textures, all that good stuff that you'll need to make your own mods. So the very first thing that you'll have to do here is have Texmod installed, TEXMOD. It's not Textmod like some people put on there. And then to use it, if you're not familiar, basically click on this icon. When you first open it, it'll just be an open folder. And you're going to want to find your main app.exe folder or Madden file. If you don't open the main app exe, if there's another one that's called like Madden 08, that one doesn't work. So make sure you use main app.exe. So the very first thing that we're going to do here is learn how to log textures, or just basically take them out of the game so that we can edit them. So basically what you do is you make sure you have package mode, you select logging mode. That's the very first thing you do. So main app, which is Madden, click on logging mode, which will let us go into the game and save textures. Make sure this stuff is saved like this. I like to export them in ping because that's what I've always done. It's a little bit easier to work with ping when you're in GIMP rather than DDS or something like that. So I just use ping. You definitely don't want to use JPEG or BMP. Basically the reason for that is because those are not transparent, and well, you'll see why that comes in handy later. But otherwise, just use ping and set your output folder here. Mine's users, Jack is my name, desktop out, which is going to be right here. And as you can see, if you open that up right now, there's nothing in it. But anyway, we'll run the game here, we'll log a couple of textures, and we'll just kind of go through the process how that works. You'll know Texmod is working if you have the red and black text up in the upper left hand corner of your screen. Just go into the game here. I'll load up just this as it is right now. And I'm going to go into the actual game itself. I'm not just going to log the textures from right here, but I'll give you a little preview here. On your number pad, if you have a number pad on your keyboard, you don't need to, but this is the way I've always done it. If you hit this star or the asterisk button, it'll log all the textures that are on the screen. It won't log them, but it'll select them. And as I'm going through, now I can see the different textures that are available to log or to save. So let's say I wanted to save the Colts helmet, so I'll save that. I'm going through these different textures by hitting plus and minus on my number pad. We'll say I want to edit the jersey, so I hit enter to save it into that folder. We'll say I want the pants, so I hover over it. When it's up in the upper left hand corner, it means I have it currently selected. The thing is that makes modding Madden a little bit tricky is here you can see the hip, and the hip is a different texture than the actual pants, so you have to log both of them. And the really tricky part is when you have them logged, you have to pretty much make sure they're logged perfectly. Now we've got textures or templates that will help you with that, but as far as just kind of freehand it, that takes a lot of practice. So anyway, I just logged those textures for the Colts home uniform. So now if we open up our out folder, which is right here, you'll see those textures are right here for us to, I don't want to say manipulate because I'm not going to manipulate these, I'm just going to make completely new textures and put in there. So we'll say that we want to do, here's one of the Miami uniforms I was working on. We'll say that we want to make the Colts have a black jersey. Now when you use black, you don't want to use completely like pitch black because then you won't be able to see the wrinkles like on the jersey texture. And you can draw on it like that. Sometimes I do that, but a better way is just to use the paint bucket. And then for things like this, I just color right over it. Now, if you're not familiar with GIMP, I'll kind of go over this with you quick here. All these different things are layers. So if you think of it sort of like, back in the 90s when we were in school, they used to have the transparency sheets on the overhead projectors, and you kind of you could stack the sheets on top of each other, and you could kind of see through them, and that's kind of how a lot of these are. So let's just say I wanted to put some of these shoulder loops on there because I like those, they're cool. I would use my magic wand tool. If you hold it, you can do fuzzy select or you can do select by color, which would work better in this case. And if I select by color the red ones, it will just select the red loops. Now, I want to take note here because when I first started editing uniforms, I would just color over these loops right here and it would look like that. It wouldn't have any texture to it. And what you can do, or what you should do, is once you have these things selected here, uh, just make that layer, that particular layer, invisible. And I usually just click the lock thing so I can find it quickly later. But anyway, make that layer invisible once you have your color selected. Go down to your color layer and then color that in. And now you can kind of see right here where the shoulder pad kind of just pokes through there. You always want to edit your colors on the color level because that's going to give your image depth and texture to it. So you want to make sure you edit that instead of the template layers that are up here. So anyway, I'm going to select the yellow now because that's the middle. I make it invisible and I go down to my color layer and I'm just going to make that another color. I'm not really making any particular uniform, I'm just kind of demonstrating right now. So we got red and blue there. We'll get rid of the Miami collar because I was working on that for a different project. And that's cool. But say I don't want this Nike Vapor Untouchable template. If I deselect that, if I make it invisible, now I've just got like a black layer on nothing. We'll say, for example, I want to use the Adidas template. I can just click that, and you can see it changes what my background looks like. So what my actual jersey is going to look like. And you can do that with all these different templates here. I'm going to provide these to you, so you'll have access to these. So we've got all that stuff. Background is the original from like Madden 08. That's the original jersey template they had. These other ones I picked up on Football Freaks. I believe El Guapo made some of them. I don't remember if I got any from anybody else, but El Guapo definitely provided some of these. So anyway, color, that's that. The logos. This is going to be your logos as far as Adidas, Under Armour, Nike, or another Nike one here. You want to take note of what jersey style you're using here. So this is a Nike jersey, so you'll want to use a Nike swoosh there. I prefer this one. And then we can close this up. And the other reason you want to remember that you're using Nike jersey is because when you edit the sleeves, which I have up here, you're going to want to make sure that you have a Nike sleeve background. You're going to want your textures to line up properly. So with jersey, if you pick like an Under Armour jersey and you put Nike sleeves on it, it's going to look weird, like where the jersey meshes together with the sleeve. So you want your jersey and your sleeves to have the right or the same sort of background. So we had a Nike sleeve on that one, so we just make sure we have a Nike sleeve on this one. Same thing if we had an Adidas sleeve on the other one, we want to make the Adidas background image there. And there you go. So we're just going to go with Nike here. On the other one, we did black jersey, so we're just going to color right over that plain layer. But you know what, let's say this is going to look bad because we put the shoulder loops on the other one. But I'm always a big fan of these triple stripes here. So let's say we want to edit this layer instead of the plain layer. The templates that you're going to have access to will let you basically, just like we did before, use the color select whatever color you want to change. So I selected blue, and I want to change that to black. So I just took the black pencil, colored over it, there we go. Then we've got the red layer, which on the other one we made like a lighter shade of red, so I'm going to switch my colors over here to red. And then we've got the yellow layer on the jersey. The last part on this was this kind of royal blue color. So we're going to edit that, make that royal blue. Now, something that you should be aware of when you're making uniforms is that your sleeve texture, you only get one sleeve texture, but of course a football jersey has two sleeves on it. So if you put a logo on your sleeve, it's going to be facing the same direction on each side. So like if you put like a word on your sleeve, like whatever word you want, like word, for example, on one side of the sleeve, it's going to be written correctly. And on the other side of the jersey, word will be written incorrectly. So that just kind of is something to be aware of. I'm just going to leave it on here for demonstration purposes. So be aware of that, basically because the texture will get flipped on one half of the jersey, just because it's the same texture. They do have to save space in the game. So if you put like a word on here, or if you put like a logo, like some teams will use like the head, like an animal head or something like that, or an arrow, or anything like that. On once it'll be facing the same direction. Just basically know that the sleeve texture gets flipped on each side of the jersey. So you'll have to kind of work with that sometimes. I've seen cases where people had to manipulate what was on the sleeve just to make sure that it doesn't look completely weird. And some people it doesn't bother them. Like if you have a word written backwards on one half of the jersey because the sleeve is like this, then whatever. But that bothers me when that's like that. And the same thing goes with pants. We'll talk about that later. But anyway, so we've got these two things done here. I'm going to export. Now this is the important part. You don't want to save this because you do want to save it, but saving it's not going to help you get it into the game. So what you want to do is you want to export it, and I'm just going to call this sleeves, and then just do BS for black sleeve in this case, and then whatever the team would be. So it would be team A. I'm just going to call them. So I'm going to export that to my desktop. And then export that again. And then the jersey here, we're going to do file, export as. Again, make sure it's a PNG. And we're just going to save this as jersey. I do K for black because, well, in this case, I'm going to do K for black. And then J for jersey. I didn't do it on the other one just because I wasn't thinking. The reason for that is because blue is usually B, black is K. So jersey, KJ, team A. I'm just going to save that to my desktop and export. So what we do now is we look in our out folder where we saved those textures earlier from Indianapolis. I'm going to take those to the sleeve and the jersey. And this is pretty simple, simpler than a lot of people make it seem. I'm just going to copy that address, the name for the Colts jersey, and I'm going to paste it onto my own jersey that I just made. And then the same thing with the sleeves. So I'm going to take the sleeve, cut the address, put in some random letters there so it doesn't try to load up different things in the same address, paste it in there. Okay, so we've got our jersey done. Next, let's do a helmet. So I'm going to go into my tutorial video folder here. It will open up the helmet file and make sure it's above everything else. There we go. And for the helmet, since we're doing the triple theme here, I'm just going to go triple outline. Now let's do triple. Again, just like before, the helmet color layer is one we want to edit to make sure our helmet is, whatever we want. That's like the shell of the helmet. We'll make that a royal blue color just because why not? The triple stripes, that's this layer right here that I'm toggling on and off. With the helmet, there's not really any kind of texture that you need to worry about, so we can just edit right over these. We'll make this black, we'll make that black, and we'll make the inside stripe our lighter red color. Okay, there we go, file. And again, this uniform's can be completely ugly, but it's just one of those things. So again, export it as helmet, and we'll export that to our desktop so I can find it more easily. You might have another place you want to export this stuff to. I usually have folders with all the names of my different things that I'm working on, but for right now, it's just what I'm doing. Again, cut that address out for the helmet, make our new helmet have that address, And there you go. Something else I want to talk about with the helmet I should have mentioned here is there's a logo guide. So if you want to put a logo on your helmet, just find something on Google and copy and paste it right in here. Make sure it fits inside the square, because once it starts getting bigger than that square, you're going to get some warping on it, and it's not going to look very good. You can sort of manipulate that image once you get it in there, like if you want it bigger than the logo square here, but that takes a little bit of work, a little bit of effort, so that's just something to keep in mind. And some decals, they don't take up that whole square, like they might be smaller, like for example, the U for the Miami thing, or the Miami Hurricanes logo, might not take up this whole square because, it's not really dimensioned like that. It might only go up to like here, like the top of the U, and then the bottom of the U just goes down right here, and it would look something like that. So it doesn't have to take up that whole square. That's just kind of an idea of where you want to put your logos to keep them lined up with each other frontwards, and then again, if they get too close up here to the top, it's going to start to warp. Okay, so anyway, the other important thing about that is once you put your logos in, if you do use this logo guide, hide that layer at the end, or else that square is going to stay on your helmet when you load it into the game. Okay, so then the last part here is we got hips and legs. So I'm going to load both of those up together. And just like before, where's the camera? There it is. So just like before, you've got your background layers. We'll just use, again, since we're doing Nike, we'll do Nike 2. And then when I do that, I just like to go right into here to the pant layer and load up Nike 2, just so I have it ready. I don't forget, because I forget that all the time. I'm going to turn off the plain layer because, we're doing triple stripes on everything, because that's kind of the concept we're going with here. So triple wide is the name of this stripe template here. So I'm going to go over to the pants, the lower part of the pants. I'm going to find triple wide. And again, this is what I'm talking about, where it's like you have to be really careful with lining up your, whatever the template name is. Because if I do triple spaced on this one, triple space 2, and triple wide over here, it's gonna look bad on the jersey or on the pants in the game. So you'll kind of get the hang of that. So anyway, we've got our triple wide here. We got a blue helmet, a black jersey, and boy, how could we make this any uglier? Let's just do black pants. Okay, so we're doing black pants again. I always do the pencil thing. I should get out of that. I'm completely self-taught, so you can probably tell. Again, here I'm going to edit this blue part to be black. On this one, we want these stripes to be blue. The yellow part will be blue. So again, I'm just toggling back and forth between the hips and the pants, just to make sure I'm coloring everything the same way. And then the inside of that is going to be red. And the same thing here. And you might have noticed that I keep this, I keep my other jersey layer, my sleeve layer open, just because that kind of makes it easier for me when I'm looking back at stuff. If I want to make sure that the outside stripes are always blue, like here on the pants, the outside stripes are blue and the inside stripe is red. And the same thing with up here. The outside stripes are blue, the inside stripe is red. That's a nice little thing that I do to help keep me, on task, remembering how I want my theme to kind of be with my uniform. So anyway, over here, this is going to help us color in the sock layer. If you want white socks, you can leave that blank. If you want again, this is just the top part of the sock. You might be familiar with, to color the bottom part of the sock, you need to edit the shoe, which I'm not really going to get into too much here. But the sock layer, you can color that red. I'm not sure why it's not colored there. Anyway, so sock layer, we can make that red. We can make it black. If you want to, and this goes for any of this stuff here, if you want to make your own custom design, you can do that as well. So I just deleted the whole color layer. When I was in high school, I loved these, they were so cool. We had socks that had a thick stripe in the middle here like this, and then it had two thinner stripes that went around like this. And let's just make that red. I'm going to take that box to keep it the same size, and I'm just going to kind of eyeball it here. I'm going to put that right about there. And that looks too low, so I'm going to actually move that up just a little bit. Right about there. And that's not going to be perfect, but what are you going to do? Okay. If you wanted to check to see if it was perfect, you could take this square here and measure. It tells you down the bottom where it says, I can't really point to it, but down here where my mouse is, if you watch there, when you're making a square, it'll tell you the dimensions. So this dimension is 8 by 4, so it's 4 blocks tall. And down here, let's just see if we eyeballed it correctly. This is 4 blocks tall. So look, we actually do have the same amount of space between this white here to the red one, the white one to the red one. So we've got the same amount of space there. But again, you can make custom designs on the socks if I wanted to get crazy and put like little, I don't know, if I want to change this brush here and, you know, oops, that's not what I wanted. I put little stripes on it or something. Of course, this is going to look absolutely terrible, but this is just an example of what you can do with some of this stuff. I just want to put little stripes on it like that, just because I feel like it. Again, you can kind of customize it however you want. So that's just something to consider. Like, you don't have to follow the templates exactly as they're created. You can do whatever you want with them, and in fact, a lot of times you probably will have to. For example, here, this is the one. Oops, this is the one Miami sleeve that I was working on. It kind of has that ibis. I think that's what this is supposed to be. It's got like the beak there, and that's kind of the head of the bird. This is not a template that is made. I made that myself. So there's going to be a lot of instances where you might have to kind of go out of your comfort zone to figure out how to do that stuff. In that case, I just took one of the pictures of the sleeve, and I took this, I copied it, and I pasted it into GIMP, and then I used it as a guide. I just kind of took the pen and I just kind of free-handed it, and I think it turned out pretty well compared to what it actually looked like. I'll give you a reference here. So there's over here's the original version, and over here's what I kind of put together myself. Again, I just took the paintbrush here and I just traced over it pretty much. I think it looked pretty good. So that's sort of some things that you can look at. We need to make sure we export, and changing gears here. We need to export our pants. So I'm just going to save this as pants, or legs, I guess I call it, on the desktop. Then the top part I always call hips, because you can't just... The NCAA games actually did a nice job. They made the leg texture all one thing, but in Madden, they just kept it like this. So anyway, I'm going to export the hips texture to my desktop and minimize this, and we basically got our uniform ready to go now. As you're modding some other things, like if you want to mod entire teams, like if there's a certain team you want to have, you're going to have to also log all the numbers for the team, and that's the same process as that we did for logging all this other stuff here. Just go through, you're going to have to actually go into a game, find all the numbers, go into a game, find all the numbers, log each one individually, and then you'll have to edit them and replace them how you see fit. So anyway, we've got our whole uniform ready to go here. Again, it's going to be the ugliest thing ever. What we do when we want to put this into the game is just go to package build, we're going to hit build, and then it's going to give us this screen if we did everything right. I'm just going to name this Team A Home, and I'm going to hit save, and then it will show up here on my desktop. So Team A Home Uni. To get this into the game, I'm going to go to package build. I'm going to make sure I hit this little envelope here to load up my texture. I'm going to hit run, and it will load up into the game here. And again, the team that we replaced was the Colts. So we're just going to go to Exhibition, select sides, and then uniform here, and we'll have our uniform that we just made up. So that's pretty much as far as what you need to do for uniforms. Now that's if you wanted to do the whole uniform like this, and you just wanted to basically have a whole uniform set ready to go. Something I'll show you here is the texture for the uniform. The helmet was the same. Obviously the Colts don't change their helmets, and it looks like the top of the pants was the same texture as well. So the point I'm trying to show you here is that when you replace textures, the game sometimes uses the same textures in different spots. So it would overwrite certain textures and they would overlap, and you kind of have to be careful with how you save some of these things, which is going to bring me to my next point here. Something that I personally like to do is what I call, and I guess what the NCAA game calls, is mix and match, which is where you can make certain uniform parts. I guess you could kind of pick and choose whatever uniform part you want to use at whatever time. So, for example, with this team that we made here, let's say that we just want to have different helmet options. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a new folder here on my desktop. I'm just going to call this Mix and Match Team A. Okay. And then I'm going to use this folder here to sort of store all my, because this is kind of like a rabbit hole you're about to go down, because you can make pretty much any uniform combination you want here. I'm just going to give a couple examples. So this is going to take a couple steps here. I'm going to make a new folder, and let's just say I want to have a red helmet option for my team. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up, well, I'm going to take the Texmod folder, I'm going to take the helmet. Let me rephrase that. I'm going to take the Texmod document, I'm going to take the helmet, and I'm going to copy, Control C. I'm going to pick one right here, Control V, so they're pasted in here, and there we go. Now, what I need to make sure that I do here is I need to change my Texmod log document so all it has is my helmet texture. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read this, and it says BB90, and right here, BB90, that's the one I want to keep there. So I'm going to get rid of these other four, because if we don't get rid of those other four, it'll give us an error when we try to load it up in game, pretty much, or when we try to load it up in Texmod. I'm going to save this, and there we go. So I've got my red helmet, and I've got my original thing over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a folder here. Since we don't really need all this stuff over in the Texmod out folder, I'm going to make this just called base uniform. And I'm going to put all my goodies over here. So anyway, in the red helmet thing, I'm going to open up this. I still got my stuff open from earlier. I'm going to change the helmet color, because this is called red helmet, and we're going to just color over the helmet shell layer. We're going to go into the triple layer, and we're going to use that blue color that we used earlier for the middle stripe, and there we go. So I'm going to export this as red helmet.png. Save that to the desktop, and I spelled helmet wrong, but whoops. So I'm just going to drag this in here because this is my red helmet folder. I'm going to steal that name right off of there, put it onto the red helmet, and then I'm just going to drag it over to Texmod, the out folder. I'm going to use Texmod again. Again, we're going to do package build because we want to make a new file pretty much here. And we're just going to hit build, and then we're going to call this red helmet. Save that to the desktop. And it'll show up probably right here, yep. Then, to try it out, to make sure that we keep the black uniform and all that stuff, we're just going to leave Team A home uni on there. We're going to load in red helmet. Now the thing is, to make sure that, like, Texmod basically reads this stuff from the top down. So to make sure that we load our red helmet in, we need to select this texture, hit the green arrow to put it up higher. If we want the blue helmet on there for whatever reason. Since we know the blue helmet's part of the base uniform, we would move it up. But we want the red helmet, so we're going to move that to the top, and we'll hit run. And this time when we load up the game, it'll have the black jersey, black pants, and instead of the blue helmet, it'll have red. So exhibition, Colts, select side, uniform, there it is. So it's really pretty simple. Once you have the textures logged, basically the biggest pain is getting the textures logged, getting the names. Um, that's really the big pain. Once you have the stuff edited how you want it, then you're good to go. Now, if I ever want to make another helmet for this uniform set, like if I want to do a white one or a black one or whatever, I would just copy these two, the one with the address and game, and this Texmod file that is edited, so it just has the helmet address. If I ever wanted to make another helmet, I would just make a new folder here, call it like black helmet or whatever, put those two files in it, and then I would just update my helmet color how I wanted it. So that's probably the best way to mix and match. If you wanted to mix and match each individual part of the uniform, we can do that here. Basically, we would take the sleeve and the jersey, and then we would have to find what two addresses those were. And, I guess we'll do that quick here. So, take those three parts there. I'm going to Control-C to copy it. And I'm going to make a new folder. And we'll make let's make a red jersey. Red jersey. Okay. So, red jersey. Paste it in there. And there's our addresses that we need, though I'm not going to directly edit these two pings. I'm going to use the GIMP file that I had open earlier. And again, we're going to make the jerseys red, so make sure you have the color level selected. I'm just going to take the red from there, put it there, and there we go. So I'm just going to leave it like that. Again, for here, this is the layer that we were editing color on, so I'm just going to do that. And we'll do File, Export As, and then this is how I was telling you I rename all my stuff like this. So red sleeve, and then this one's going to be red jersey. And you'll see I'm filling up on my desktop. Again, just take them, drag them in there. Take the addresses with Control-X to cut. Control-V to paste. And again here, Control-X. Control-V. And then again, in this Texmod file, we need to make sure we don't have any addresses that aren't actively in this folder. So this one's going to end in 1D9, and this one ends in 998. So I need 1D9 to stay in here. So we don't need this one. And we don't need these two. So these should match up, 998 and then 1D9. So we've got that. So I'm going to save. I'll close this. Texmod, package build. And we need to make sure it's over in our out folder. Because again, it's looking here, users, jack, desktop, out. And it's looking for this texmod.log. That's what it's looking for. So build, and we're just going to call this red jersey. Desktop, save. And there it is, red jersey. So I'll drag these over to the red jersey folder, and just for the sake of doing this, we'll make a different pair of pants, and we'll just make them white. So we'll do white pants. So, don't want to go in there yet. We're going to go into the base uniform. We're going to grab the address, or the address for the pants here. So this is the hip, this is the legs, this is Texmod, which we need. And select that, bring it into white pants here, paste them in, refresh the page. Now again, I'm not going to do anything with these. I'm going to go back to my GIMP file here, and you can save these onto your desktop, which I think would be a really smart idea, or save them into a folder somewhere. I'm not going to do it because I'm not going to come back to these at any point, but it's always a good idea to save your artwork in case, because I've had files where I've been working on this one mod when I was in college, like 2014, and it was a mod that I really liked, and I've come back to it and wanted to add alternate uniforms 7 years later. So it's just something to save and have, and sometimes it takes up a lot of room. Like I've got a lot of external hard drives, but if it's something that you like, go ahead and do it. Anyway, so as far as this goes, this is kind of what I was talking about with the transparency. Since we're making this black pants white, I'm just taking the black part of these pants, I'm gonna hit delete. So it basically got rid of the color there, and since there's no color, it just is white. So that's what we've got there. And for the lower part of the pants here, make sure we have the layer selected with the color, select the black part, get rid of that, make it white. And since we don't have any black really on this uniform other than the black stripe on the helmet, I'm going to change the sock part here. So I'm going to change this black to, I think blue would look better. So I'm going to do that and change this to blue. And now we've actually got a half decent looking uniform. I think the helmet's still a little gross looking, but whatever. So I'm going to export this as call this white legs on the desktop. Export, and then file, export as, I'm just going to call these white hip. And again, it's, my naming techniques are a little weird right now because I usually put them right into a folder for whatever particular team, but it's just kind of getting a little sloppy on my part right here. But anyway, so I'm going to copy that address, change it into that one, and copy this address, Control X, put it onto this one, and we're going to need to make sure that we only have the addresses that we need, so it's 15 and 96. So let's see, that's not what we need. The third one is one that we need, and the fourth one is one that we need. So get rid of the other ones, file, save. There we go, drag this back into Texmod, build a package, and we're just going to call this white pants. So I wasn't timing how long it took me, but you know, in I don't know, just a few minutes, we were able to add 3 whole different uniform elements. I think this is going to look a lot better. So just for example here, I'm going to load up the uniform we just made. So we have the red helmet, we've got the red jersey, and we're going to take the white pants. And I think we'll see what we come up with here. And again, since I didn't log the Colts numbers or anything like that, to do that you have to actually go into game and find each and every individual number, which is a big pain and it takes a lot of time. We're just going to have white numbers without any sort of background, but here's what we've got here. Like I said, I think this is going to look better. I don't love it. I don't think it looks real good, but it's a good example how quickly you can sort of modify things with Texmod and using GIMP and all this kind of stuff. So we've got our new uniform here, and that is pretty much that for uniforms. The next thing I'm going to show you about here is logging stadium parts to sort of make a base layer, or to make a base file. Now, what I do for this, and this is actually what I'm about to do is important here, make sure your Texmod out folder is empty, because if you start logging stuff in the out folder when you have other parts of your mod in there already, it can be a big pain to sort of sort through everything. So before you start loading something up, or before you start logging more textures, always check your out folder just to make sure you don't have any kind of anything in there already. Okay, so anyway, we are going to go into logging mode. Again, we've got ping, we've got enter, and it's going to save our folder or our files to our out folder here. I'm going to hit run, and it's going to put us into the game. So I'm kind of lumping this next part together here as far as accessories goes and as far as stadium goes, and making what I call a base layer. Essentially, my base layer has all of the things that are basically that I would want to have loaded whenever I start the game. So for example, if I was making a mod for a specific team, for example, I made a mod recently for the Miami Hurricanes to take over the spot of the Miami Dolphins. So my base layer would be, I would go into the game, I would find the Dolphins logo here, and I'll hit hit star again, because remember the star, the asterisk button is going to be what helps us to just log the files that are on the screen. I would take the Miami Dolphins logo, I'd log it, and then out in Texmod I'd replace it with the Hurricanes logo. So wherever the Miami Dolphins logo showed up, when I had the base layer selected, it would load up the Miami Hurricanes logo. As far as stadiums go, there's some different things to consider. In the stadium, if you do the stadium preview like this, and then hit preview, you'll get an idea of what the stadium looks like in game. Now, this is not vanilla Madden 08. This is with the Football Idiot mod, which of course is really good. And if you don't use Football Idiot and you play Madden 08, you definitely should. It's honestly the best. It has every kind of file you could ever imagine on there. So definitely do that. But anyway, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to just take some of these textures that were loaded in here. So I'm going to hit star. That's the net behind the goalpost there. If you want to get rid of it, you can, but the football's just going to kind of fly into it and stop like a force field, so I wouldn't do that. That's your goalpost padding. This is your field. I'm just logging some of this stuff. This is the end zone art. Again, whenever you are finding textures, it will highlight the texture in green. The whole end zone is logged as green right now. You can see the Miami font written up in the upper left-hand corner. Basically, if you could imagine a transparent or a see-through rectangle around that, that's why the end zone art doesn't have like color around it. It's just grass. So this is going to be one of the tunnels that lead back into the stadium right there. Log that. Up there on the second row of seats, this is the banner that goes around that row. This is the banner that goes around the third row. If we wanted to color that, maybe we will. This is the banner that goes around the first row of seats. And this is the stairs. We can make a pretty funky looking stadium here. This is the, I don't really know what you'd call it. It's just that concrete thing behind the second row of stands. Again, more stairs. Here's the awning that sits above the tunnels over here, so we could edit that if we wanted. Like I said, I'm not going to grab every single texture here, but this is just an example. When you want to make a stadium, you are going to want to keep it as its own Texmod file. Usually with the stadium, I just edit all this stuff together just to keep it simple. Do not load multiple stadium, like don't make a Texmod file with 5 different stadiums in it, because some stadiums use the same turf texture. So if I put something on this turf texture and then load up Tampa Bay's field, for example, I don't know for sure if that's an example that we can use accurately here, but if I put something on this field and we go and play against Tampa Bay and I have the stadium TPF loaded up, it's going to make Tampa Bay's field look like Miami's field. So just be careful. Just make a different TPF for every single team that you do. But as far as editing this stuff goes, I have templates for this. I wasn't really planning on going too much in detail with this, but I'm not going to use my template. I'm just going to open this with GIMP and say, for example, I wanted to make it look like it was a muddy, rundown field, like because I did a high school mod a while ago. I would find some kind of mud-looking color down in this sort of area. I might take my airbrush tool and make it a little bit bigger, choose something like this, and then kind of go up and down the middle here. It kind of look like it's beat up. Might change the color up a little bit, make it a little bit lighter in some spots. And there we go. So we got a beat up football field. It would look like that when we get into the game. Again, I've got templates for this, but I don't actively have them on this computer, so I don't have access to them. But say, I'll just go with the theme of our ugly uniform we did earlier. We'll make this blue. We'll make this blue. We'll just get real crazy here, and we'll make this black. Ooh, black with a little checkerboard on it. That's interesting. You know, again, with templates, this would look a lot nicer. I'm just kind of going right over top of what they already have, so it's not going to look very good. But, you know, so let's change this to an actual pen. Paintbrush. Okay. So here's our super ugly field. Our team is called Team A, so of course we should have an A on there somewhere. So let's just put a letter A on here. Here we go, Team A. That's a nice looking field right there. All right, so we're gonna overwrite that. The way we're doing this, okay, that's nice. The way we're doing this is it's just gonna overwrite into the out folder, so we'll be able to edit that. I mean, we won't have to really do anything further as far as changing names in Texmod. It'll just sort of be there. For this stuff, there really, as far as I know, aren't any templates for this, so if you want to edit this, you can. You have to be a little creative with how you do it. Typically what I would do if I was really taking my time with this mod is I would do a new layer. I would just call it color, and this is an important part here, is you need to make sure this layer is selected as multiply. If you have it set as multiply, it'll let you paint things and not, while keeping the same texture underneath. So as you can see, like, you can still see the brick wall behind where I'm painting. If we had this set as normal, it would just paint right over it. You wouldn't be able to see the brick wall behind it. So I'm just going to paint this as it is. There we go. And again, that's not beautiful. I'm not putting a huge amount of effort into that, but if I was, I would clean up that area a little bit there. I might look at making it blue up there. So I'm just going to overwrite that. Back into my out folder. We'll leave that Dolphins thing blue. We'll leave this here. We're going to open up the end zone art. We'll do something with this. So basically, I know I don't want this Miami in there, so I'm just going to get rid of that layer. I'm going to make it invisible. I'm going to make a new layer, and we'll make this layer blue. So this is going to be our end zone here. So we're going to make our end zone all blue. We're going to put a text box in here. We're going to call it Team A. Alright, Team A for the win. And of course, black looks awful on blue, so I'm going to do white. Yeah, of course. And do white. Okay. And then we're going to do just some different colors to kind of make it look nice here. Of course, you don't have to do all this stuff. Maybe I'll make this kind of red color we were using earlier. And you don't want to use white too much in end zones, like as far as stripes go, because you know, the back of the end zone stripes are white. So you want to make sure that you're not doing too much white. It can get a little confusing there. But we'll do this, fill that in. And we'll make our Team A. I'll select that layer so it has the white. I'm going to do select, and I'm going to do shrink by 2. And now I can just kind of color that in so it has a little white outline on it. And there we go. We got Team A. So I'm going to file, overwrite that. This goalpost here, you can see it's got some like kind of cloth texture on it, because like if you've ever seen a goalpost padding, it's got that sort of like a foam texture, and it's got like some sort of like wrap around it, plastic. I don't want to say plastic, but you know. Anyway, it's a little wrinkly. So if I'll just show you this for example here, and this is an example that will make me nuts. But if you just color right over this, it loses all of its texture. And in a case like this, if you do multiply, I'm sorry, new layer, and then it's multiplying. So if I multiply teal with black, it's going to be really dark. You can still see the Dolphins logo through there, so it's not going to look very good. There's textures on Football Idiot that have, I'm sorry, it's a goalpost. It's called, I think it's Pick 6 Better Goalpost. So that's a good one to have as well. I'm going to just save this without the appropriate texturing underneath it, just to kind of give you an example of what that looks like. I'm going to overwrite it, and that will cover that up. Here's our upper layer stuff. So GIMP. Open this one in GIMP while we're at it, and I'll open this in GIMP. So as I was in the game there, I was having visions of how we could sort of color the stadium and make it really themed to our particular team here. So I want to keep that background, I want to keep it to have that sort of texture, but I want to just change the color. So again, I made a new layer, and the color layer here, I'm just going to color over it, make sure the color layer is selected. Now I've got blue walls up in the upper levels. Here we've got the Dolphins logo. There's really not too much like texture background on this, so I'm just going to color right over that, and we won't really lose any kind of major amounts of quality. And hey, our team is Team A, so we better put an A on here. Alright, there we go. That's that team spirit for Team A. Okay. File, overwrite. And we've got our Dolphins thing here, so we're just going to replace that with blue again. We have a very blue stadium. Okay. So I'm going to file, overwrite this. And I'm just going to kind of leave this other stuff here. It was sort of just an example. So we're going to go to Texmod, package build, and I'm just going to call this Team A Stadium. Save. And it'll show up right here. There it is. So package mode, I'm going to make sure I have Team A Stadium, white pants, red jersey, red helmet. Actually, you know what? Instead of the white pants, let's say we'll have black pants. So I'm going to get rid of the white pants. I'm going to load up our base uniform, which I'm going to have to find now. Can't remember if I put it in this folder. Yeah, base uniform. That's not there. Okay. Well, now I'm going to look. Oh, Team A home uniform. That's what we called it. Okay, so that's down at the bottom there. So what basically will happen is we know that the base uniform has a blue helmet, black jersey, and black pants. By loading it up this way, since like we said, it reads from the top down, it will now have a red jersey. It's going to replace the black jersey. The red helmet is going to replace the blue helmet, but we have nothing replacing the black pants from this particular file. So it'll be red jersey, red helmet, black pants. And then we've got Team A Stadium, which we know is the Dolphins Stadium. So we're going to load it up. We're going to see what we came up with. It's going to look extremely good, I'm sure, because we put all that blood, sweat, and tears into it. So I'm going to go Exhibition. You have to make sure the Dolphins are the home team. The Colts will be the away team. And the reason I did it like this is because the Dolphins' home uniform is white, so our uniform here should be, yep, what we expected, red, red, black, and the Dolphins will just have the all white. And once we get into the stadium, it'll show us, yeah, we'll do this. We'll get into the actual, Team A stadium, and we'll see what Team A looks like in front of their home crowd, except it's not their home crowd. But you can see there's all the blue that we put up on the walls, down at the bottom, middle layer, top layer. There's the American flag. We've got the end zone art that we just fixed up. So there's the actual whole field that looks extremely awesome with the black sidelines. Let me get through the coin toss here, and then we'll take a look at some of the stuff in more detail. And just as a note here, I mean, you obviously probably know this, but just to be sure, when you are making stadiums for your teams, don't just kind of scattershot the stadiums like I did. You know, if your team is the Dolphins, you're going to want to edit the Dolphins stadium for the Dolphins. That's obvious, but okay. So anyway, here's our end zone art. Team A, like we said, we have the outline there. It all looks good. There's all those kind of like spots on the sideline that were there. You can see it in the second layer. You've got the team. You've got the letter A over and over again, just like we did, because that texture repeats. All these textures really repeat, so that's why you get that sort of repeating all the way around. On above the second layer there behind the scoreboard, you can see this is sort of what I was talking about earlier with how textures, they use the same textures but they sometimes flip them. That's why the American flag is backwards on that texture up there, whereas on the other side the American flag you can see is forward, so that's one of those cases where textures get flipped. The same thing will happen on our jersey here if I zoom in on it. So this is what I was talking about with the sleeves. So this is the side where it's word is backwards. It says B backwards R O W. On this side it says word. So you need to sometimes be careful about both. That'll just kind of mess up your. In my opinion, I think it kind of messes up the work sometimes. With the black pants, this uniform's actually kind of grown on me. It's not bad. With the black pants, again, if I made it like completely pitch black on the color layer, you wouldn't be able to see. If you look at his knee pad, you can see the Nike logo. You can see all that kind of stuff there. So if you did it pitch black, you wouldn't be able to see all that stuff. But otherwise, that's not bad. Not a bad high school uniform or something. Here's the goalpost pad. This is what I was talking about earlier, where you really don't want to just take something with texture and color right over it. And I would argue that it looks like this in the background too, on that first level of the stadium seating there, the walls. Like, just when you have a texture and you just color over it with like a single color, it doesn't look good. Like, for example, look at the grass here in the end zone, the blue part especially. Like, to have color over a texture, it makes it look so much better. Whereas the solid blue wall doesn't really look good, or the solid black goalpost pad doesn't look good. So you really need to have that sort of background texture that you're coloring over, basically. The same thing could be said for the jerseys. Like, if you didn't put that background part of the jersey where it has like the mesh part, and you just color it in a red square and put it on there without the background part, it wouldn't look good. So that's an important thing that you'll need to learn. Like I said, when I first started off, I just colored over the sleeves without any sort of like mesh part on it, and it was passable, but it didn't look good. Okay. Something else to note is I didn't log the face mask color. I wanted to, but it just wasn't one of the options. So I would have had to have come into the game to log the face mask color instead of just logging it right from the uniform preview. So there's some things you had to get into the game, like the numbers you'd have to get in from the game, the face mask you'd have to get from the game. Um, just change those colors. To change it to an actual white face mask looks extremely way better than just the vanilla white face mask in the game. Um, that's pretty much that as far as uniforms, stadiums, that sort of thing goes. But like I said, for a base file, you'd want to pick the files that are specific to your team. So using that Miami example again, I would want to take this midfield logo and I would want to edit this to have the Miami Hurricanes logo. The end zone stuff, that would probably be something I'd want to change in the base layer or at least the stadium layer. It's really up to you. That kind of the base layer thing and the mix and match. I don't know. I don't want to say I created it myself because I don't think I did, but it's not. From what I've seen on Texmod in the past, what people usually do is they design whole uniforms, put it into Texmod, and there you go. Again, I don't want to say that I came up with making different uniform parts for every different uniform piece that you have, but it's something that I definitely use pretty exclusively. I use it a lot. I use it all the time, pretty much, just because it gives you way more flexibility with what uniform pieces you want to use. So that's sort of that. And the more you play with this stuff, the better you'll get at it. Like I said, I first started doing this when I was in college. Like it was 2012. I was in my dorm room. I had no photo editing experience, no image manipulation experience. I just kind of really wanted to make my own uniforms. It started off as I wanted to make a mod for the local high school teams around me. And when you want to learn something, you just get in there and you get your hands dirty and you start doing it. And it was a lot of trial and error. It took me a lot of time, but over the years, I think I've gotten really good at it. By some of these examples you see here, I mean, they're awful. I just was screwing around just to give you an example, but um, it's just gonna be one of those things where you got to work at it. Take your time, check out the Football Idiot forums. They are extremely helpful. I'm sure you'll come across things that I've posted there, trying to learn. Over the last literally over 12 or 10 years now. I mean, um, it, it's crazy. But anyway, just let me know if you need help or with anything. You put a message here, comment, whatever, and I'll help you out with whatever I can. I think I pretty much touched on all that kind of stuff there. Yeah, we touched on the mix and match. Basically, made all these different jersey styles, the pant styles, the base file. Basically, you're just going to load it. You're going to go into the game and load whatever files you need. For example, when I was doing my fictional high school mod, VIAA, I went into the game and I didn't want NFL logos and stuff, so I'd find all the NFL logos. I would log them. I would find all of the United States flag logos because this mod didn't take place in the United States. I'd find all those. I'd log them and I would change them to like my own fictional country's flag. Um, Basically, things that wouldn't make sense you would want to put in your base file. In the Football Idiot Football League mod that I made with the Anchorage Blizzard and all those guys, um, again, it wasn't an NFL mod, so I took the NFL logo out. I put the FIFL logo in. I changed in the base file. I actually logged the Pro Bowl uniforms, and I changed those up. So Pro Bowl uniforms would be specific to that mod. Um, but yeah, that's basically what you do with your base files. Accessories, I didn't get into that too much, but it's the same thing. Just go into the game, whatever accessories you want. It might be easiest in that case to go into the player editor and edit their, like go through all the different options, look at you know different sleeves, all that kind of stuff. Just log each one and then edit it how you want. I think recently people have been editing those things without a texture underneath it because a lot of the sleeves now are kind of like that. So that's something you could look at if you're interested in doing it. But otherwise, as far as stadiums, something I wanted to mention was that right now we don't really have a way to like edit like physical structures. Like you can edit what's appears on each of the different things in the stadium, but you can't really edit the physical structure. Or if you can, it's really complicated, and I don't really know how to do it. But you can edit the images that appear on those different structures. There's some cases where, if a stadium has some sort of thing that just like juts up out of it, if you want to, if that's a texture, you can take that texture, get rid of that texture, just like basically make it transparent, and then it will essentially be gone in the stadium when you load it back into the game. Um, that's not, it's just one of those things you'll figure out as you get to it. But yeah, go in there, mess around with the game, see what you can do. Um, be creative, have fun. I'm going to give you access to these different uniform templates that I use. But yeah, that's that. Let me know if you have any questions. I'll help you out. You'll do fine. See you, dude.